Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is the 7th of January already, 2026. This would be episode 5. Not doing a live show today. This is recorded for your benefit, and should be out by 11 p.m. this evening, Eastern Standard Time. Today we're going to be revolving around a couple of items. Nothing big. Tim Walz, fraud. He got up and said he takes responsibility for everything, but he won't resign. He's not running again, but he won't resign. I think that he is correct in not running. I don't know if he should resign. I actually said I think he should resign. He's a failure. And what is important to remember is that he was aware of these frauds going on and either hid them from people that should know, like voters, and you knew darn well the DNC knew what was going on, because it was Merrick Garland who stepped in the beginning and said, hey, there's all this fraud going on. So the DNC, DNC, Biden, they knew all this was going on. And they knew how deep this was. And we heard all about transparency. And we see that the DNC had none of that. The Democrats had none of that. Schumer had none of that. Bob, this is for you. New York. Schumer. You like that picture? Schumer, Pelosi, Jeffries, they all knew of the problems in Minnesota with Walz. And yet they had the nerve to parade him out. Can you imagine what would have happened? Would he have been the vice president? I'll tell you what would have happened. Knowing damn well Harris would have, he would have resigned from the vice presidency. And guess what? Who gets to choose who the vice president is? Yeah. Think it would have been Michelle? Think it would have been Hillary? Hillary and Harris were never on the same page together. So, all planned in advance. They had a whole theatrical setup, the Democrats, for when this would have come out, because it would have come out, and Walz would have had to resign from the vice president spot, a la Spiro Agnew. And Harris would be, I didn't know. I didn't know. We'd all know what she'd be doing. This was the Democrats being totally dishonest. And you can't tell me these people did not know. If they didn't, if it's God honestly true they didn't know, then they should not have been even thinking of being in the positions they were in. The Democrats cannot be trusted. And then you can say that about the Republicans, but at least the Republicans are wearing their sins on their sleeves. Trump is an open book. There's nothing in the last 30 years we don't know about Trump that hasn't been spilled out there, he has been exposed naked in front of all of us. Everything that we need to know about Trump, we know. What the Democrats tried to do was pull another election fraud. And I still say 2020 was fraud. 30 million votes just don't disappear and never show up again. Millions of votes just don't have Harris on it and no one else. The fraud that's going on in Colorado, the fraud that's going on in California, the fraud that's going on in Washington State, the fraud that has gone on in Oregon, the fraud that has been going on in Minnesota, the fraud that has been going on in Illinois, the fraud that's been going on in Ohio, the fraud that's been going on in Maine, the fraud that's been going on in Massachusetts, the fraud that's been going on in Delaware, the fraud that's been going on in Virginia, the fraud that has taken place in Kentucky. Just the tip of the iceberg. And how was that fraud all brought out? Some was whistleblowers in Minnesota who reported to agencies that the state wasn't going after. The federal had to go in there and go, hey, you got a problem here. The Attorney General of Minnesota, he should go. He should be out of there too. He needs to be investigated. Because there's allegations that he had spoken to a lot of these people that were not in a legal manner, but in a donation manner. And as I said yesterday, taking and, looking the other way to fraud so you can get donations, that's a federal charge. That's federal. And what the Democrats tried to do was pull the wool over our eyes. And we have to go into 2026 and say, we don't want these people in there. We don't want the Democrats in there. Now, if Democrats want to step up and go, here's a guy that had nothing to do. He's never been in politics, or he's clean. He wasn't part of that group. Then run that Democrat. Run him against a Republican. Run him against an independent. Run him against a progressive. That's fine. But the people that have been in power gotta go. If you're not going to have term limits, then take these people out in the voting booth. Get them out of there. And you have the media hyping up a big blue win. In 2026, the Republicans won't be able to hold on to the houses. Who the hell are they talking to? I know Democrats that say, I will not vote in 2026. I'm not going to waste my vote. And I go, vote. Always vote. Never just go, screw it, I'm not voting. Never, ever do that. Ever. You vote. You might have to go in there and hold your nose to vote for someone, but vote. It's the most powerful tool we have as citizens. Citizens. There's the guy from New York. And I know for a fact that people watch this show. That there are people, because if you hear me talk and you hear their shows, 3 days later they're talking about what I was talking about. The truth is very easy to find. You just have to look for it. Are the Republicans saints? Of course not. But they certainly, and it's a horrible thing to say, this person is not as dirty as that person. And I realize, in the end, I got manure and I got crap. I get that. Manure can at least be used. Crap. So you have to look at voting sometimes as the old crapshoot. Which one's going to be best with the worst? We have seen the Democrats throw our money around with no regard. Plenty of Republicans in there too, folks. You look up some of these NGOs and then filter it down to who these people are and do a back trace on those people and hold it. That's the brother-in-law of the wife of this guy, of that guy. And it transcends party lines. Because, as I said before, you could be red, you could be blue, green. Follow the money. It'll always take you where you need to go. Just look at it. All right. The scandal is just growing. It's going to be monumental. They're talking about the fraud in California. They're talking about the fraud in Illinois. And the fraud that's going on in California is going to make Minnesota look small. And you could see Newsom running for the Hill. You could see Newsom now in trouble. Huge companies are moving out of California because of just the unfriendly nature of the government environment for companies. Just can't afford to do business there. And Some of it's EPA, and some of these companies are dirty companies. They're moving out of there and leaving that land destroyed. But it was destroyed, because we had World War II, because we had, we needed oil, we needed gasoline, we needed these things, and people looked the other way, and I get that, I understand, but the money was never being used. All those fines and penalties to go, we're going to go in there, we're going to clean this property up, we're going to do it. They just gave that money away to other things. And the properties were never improved upon. And you could have companies that say, hey, I spent $100 million, but we're going to get $800 million in fines over here on top of what we need to do. Well, just close the place down and walk away. And you think those sites are going to be able to be used again? You know how deep the water tables and how deep that went sucked into the ground? And you could try for the next 20 years, 30 years to sue these companies. That's still going to be in the ground. California, you're doomed. And you can say what you want about California, but it's an economy on top of an economy. And you're having these big companies, Google, Tesla, even food producers, cheese producers, who supply 90% of all the cheeses to restaurants and food processing companies that make, frozen foods. They're moving out. And in a lot of those towns in California, that was the sole employer. And there's nothing to fill that space. I apologize for my cough. The cold is getting worse. I'm getting sicker. As I said, today's going to be my last show for at least till Monday. Well, at least till Tuesday. I got to get some time off to get better. And, but now let's go and talk about Greenland. President Trump is by far the best internet troller that has ever been on the internet. Can we all agree with that? That he uses the internet. That he's on that internet. And he posts things and trolls. The idea of us going into Greenland and taking it military. We have so many military bases there. We're already there, folks. We're there already. Why do we need Greenland? What do you think it is? Think there's oil there? You think there's mineral deposits there? Do you think it's a great platform for our laser-based technology to look at things that are over the horizon of the United States? Remember, we're a sphere. And we can only shoot things that are in that line. So we need that line a little bit closer to the apogee. So instead of shooting it down over here, we shoot it down over here. What do you think? I don't know. Bob, you'll say, because he's a maniac. What do you think? And what do you think the price tag would be? What happens if Denmark turns around and goes, all right, you want it? $60 trillion. You know, $1 billion. You know, yeah, okay. And now we start haggling. All President Trump wants to do is start that haggling, because once you set a price, now you're willing to negotiate. Now I know what your top line figure is. I think a lot of that is just Trump trolling. I don't think what happened in Venezuela had any bearing to go, hey, look what I did over there, now I can do it over here. No. Maduro had a price on his head from the first Trump administration, the Biden administration, up that bounty to $25 million. Trump had $15 million out for him. The Biden administration upped it to $25 million. But Maduro also knew that Biden wasn't going to do anything. There was money coming in all different ways. Venezuela was getting rid of people they didn't want in their country anyway. Send them to America. Let them deal with them. Remember, Cuba emptied out all their jails, all their criminals? Send them to America. You want a boat lift? There you go. We emptied our jails out. We became the dumping ground. And the Democrats looked at it as votes. These are all future votes. You know, there's only 13% black people, and a majority of them did not vote. But if we bring these people in and give them stuff and tell them, we're going to make you so you can get even more, but you have to become citizens, or we have to have you vote. Even though it's not allowed, we'll find a way to make that happen. And once we get in office, you know, and get enough people, we're going to take care of you. You don't think that was the case? Do you think it was out of the goodness of Democrats' hearts? Why would you take people from Africa and put them in Minnesota? Why would you take people out of the Haiti and Dominican Republic and in the middle of the winter take them to Ohio? Why wouldn't you take them to Texas or California or places that were more suitable than Somalians in Maine, where it's freezing 8 months out of the year? Because those were underpopulated areas where they just get lost. Now, Ohio wasn't. Ohio was to take the state out of red and make it blue. And again, we saw what the Democrats did. We saw the plan. Let's move to another topic. Today in Minnesota, ICE has shot someone who allegedly tried to use their car as a weapon. Guess what? If that was the case, we know a car can be used as a deadly weapon. Ask the people of Milwaukee during a parade. Right? Ask the people in New York City that was run down on sidewalks. We've seen it before. To go, this was, other things could have been done, or if that was the case, well, why were they, if they weren't there, none of that would have happened. Yeah. Again, it's like Walsh going, all this is political. Political. You really think? Because the fraud was being picked up by the Biden administration. And when the Department of Justice changed hands and the FBI opened up and they go, what? You're kidding me. So, can't be political, Tim Walz. It could be stupidity on your part. Omar could be criminal on her part. We'll see. We shall see. We've seen enough of this going on. We know enough that's going on. I think 2026 is going to be an eye-opener for America. And people to go, it's going to go into the trillions. And it's, like I said, that's not going to be blue states. It's going to be a lot of states. And there's going to be a lot of, well, what about them? What aboutism? Yeah. If Walsh gets arrested, Trump should be arrested. Why? It seems like Trump's doing his job. Walsh was not. And today admitted he was not doing his job, yet he won't resign. I have a year to fix this. No, you have a year that you could try to cover your tracks. But you're not going to be able to cover your tracks. And I say within a month, at the longest, he'll be gone. He'll be gone. He will have resigned. And he won't be able to hide the stuff. And the people, his attorney general, and a lot of people are going to be, cutting deals. Because this is what happens. And it's always with the feds. The feds only go to trial about 8% of the time. And of that 8% that they go to trial, they win 95% of that. What do you think your odds are of beating a federal trial? You have to have a boatload of money to have lawyers like Trump did. You think they're going to come to these people's aids? And here's what the feds do. Get you in a room. They go, we're going to let you see because you're going to find this all out during discovery, and your attorney's going to find this stuff out because we're going to have to give it to them. But here's the deal. We're going to give it to you now. We don't have to. And we could take a lot of these charges off the table. We want to know what you knew. And you'll get 24 months in big boy lockup. But it's not going to be 25 years. And maybe it could be less if this information that you give us is accurate and produces more. But if not, we got enough to put you away for 25 years. And put you in jail for 5 years even before you see a trial. This is how they do it. If the feds come to you, basically they got you. And they'll turn around, and for some people, they go, we don't need to make a deal. We already know everything about you. Or they get the 10 most select people and go, stopwatches, the first one to the door. Gets the best deal. If you're second to it, you ain't getting a deal. And this is what's going to work. And this is what scares people that get into the federal system. I don't know what that guy's... I know what that guy knows. I just don't know what he's going to say. And they can come in and lie to you and tell you, hey, I got a guy in there. I can't... we don't have a typist fast enough, a transcriber fast enough to keep up with what he's saying. But from what I heard, I'm going to give you a chance to tell us what you know. And if it corroborates his thing, I can give you the same type of deal, but we need names. We need names of people that were higher up than you. We'll get all the people down low. We're looking to go higher. I mean, you're a fish, but you're not a big fish. But big fish, little fish, they end up in cans. Right? All right. There was probably a lot of other things that I would like to talk about today, but I can't. I am going to call this now at... It's 5:45 here. I think this is about a 30-minute show. And it's about all the energy I have today. Bob in New York. And I wish, Bob in New York, that you'd call and I could have you on a two-way. I'd enjoy that. But I ain't wearing gloves. And I am not going to give you time to do your homework like I do my homework. You want to have a test? We'll have a test. But if there's anyone that I would listen to, on the other side of the spectrum, it would be Bob in New York. Because he's a believer. He's a believer. And that's okay. That's okay. Please, if you can't, give to a charity. Just make sure the charity is a legit charity. And you go to them. Don't have them come to you. You never want to be a victim trying to help people. And you become a victim. If you don't feel comfortable with that, give to a food bank. Food. And they're always looking for money donations because they can pinpoint the help that they need to give right then and there. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. No matter what a Democrat might tell you. And with that, I'm going to fade to black.